Hi, my name is Becca. Welcome back to Raising Them Simply. Here we share all about our secular homeschool as a family of 5. Today we're going to chat about some of the changes that we're making for this upcoming term for our homeschool. So if you are new here, I have a second grader, a preschooler, and a toddler running around in the mix. I also am expecting our next child, and I am a part-time working mom as a nurse. So this channel is all things homeschool and how we make it work for our family. If any of that interests you, please hit that subscribe button so you're notified of future videos, but let's jump into it. So I had mentioned in that last video that I made, if you haven't seen it, I will link it down below, but we've had a lot of changes in the last couple months in our family that have kind of frazzled up our homeschool. And we're going to be having our newest member of our family joining in a couple of months here. There's also some things that I've noticed have been lacking in other areas that I want to add some more resources for and stuff like that. So we're going to get into that for this video. I'm also going to speak about that new spelling curriculum that I keep telling you guys about. This isn't going to be an in-depth review or flip through or anything like that. If that is something you're interested in, leave a comment down below and I will work on that for you guys. But let's jump into it. So for this last month, we had finished our prehistory with Build Your Library, and we're moving into Ancients. And there's a couple of different things that we're changing specifically with our history. What we were doing, which was working really well, is if I was able to, I wake up earlier before my kids and have breakfast done and the dining room area kind of cleaned off. So that way when my kids woke up, they would get dressed, they would brush their teeth, get ready for the day, and they would have some free time. And then when it was time for them to actually eat their breakfast, they would sit at the table and they would eat. And I would have the table already set up with all of our history stuff on it. And they would listen to the readings and watch the videos while they ate. And if we had some more stuff they had to do after they finished eating pertaining to history, then they would do like a sensory bin or Play-Doh or coloring or something quietly that would allow them to keep their ears open but their hands busy before we went into the other subjects. And that worked great. However, with Build Your Library, the prehistory, there is not as much involved in that stuff as there is in the Ancients. And what I mean by that is for Ancients, the prehistory is a unit study, right? So there wasn't as many additional books and videos, art projects, all this other stuff that went into the unit study as there is for Ancients. And so I don't want us to be doing history every single day. What my plan is that we will do the history 2 to 3 days a week, probably 3 or 3 days like in a row when we're doing school, depending on my schedule. And one of those days would be like your bulk history day, where we would do any copy work and dictation, the majority of our readings, all that stuff. And the other days would be the extra, where we would watch supplemental videos, where we would do the art projects or anything else that I want to pull in to kind of tie in our reading. And on that busy day for history, we would scale back on some of the other things that we do. One, because history takes a big chunk of time for us because we have multiple students, and my preschooler has really surprised me with how involved she wants to be in our history and how much she is absorbing out of it. And I want to capitalize on that. And so I want her to be able to be involved. So history takes us an hour, hour and a half sometimes, if depending on what the subject is and the amount, the subject that we're learning and the amount of reading that we have to do. But also, I don't want to have my son have to double up on his other subjects. So if he's doing copy work with his history, I don't want him to feel like he has to do handwriting and that day on top of that. There's some other things that I also want to add, which we'll talk about, which we will do on the other days where it's a light history day. So I hope that part makes sense. On the days when we are doing a lighter history day or not doing history that day, we're going to be adding some different things in. So I did talk about in our curriculum picks and haul videos, I'll link those down below. But we had some different resources that we have used before, and then I bought a different unit study for us to do in the winter because we live in Minnesota and it is cold and snowy and we just don't do as many things in the winter, and so we had some extra things that we could kind of tie in. So one of those is when my son was in kindergarten, I got this Kinder Science bundle from Teachers Pay Teachers. I'll leave links down below for you guys. This is going to be mostly for my preschooler. She is 4, will be 5 in November, and she, like I said, has surprised me with how much she wants to be involved in stuff. And for our science this year, we are doing a light nature study, and we had this life science unit that was part of that is way below my son's level but would be perfect for my daughters. This is just to be like a supplemental fun, more one-on-one thing for me to do with her for things that are exciting and fun for her. These, like I said, are way below my son's level, so he wouldn't participate, but that's okay. So we have different sheets here, and I've got this teacher guide that goes into different like book recommendations and some of the lesson planning stuff for it. But this one, for example, is we have living and non-living things. And then we have some little tabs down here that she can color, and then she could practice her cutting and pasting and putting it in. We could talk about the difference between those two things. We also have, you know, the different, the life cycle of a seed. Especially when we get closer to spring, we have a big garden, and so this would be really nice for us to learn about this stuff before we actually do it. This is for all the different needs of a plant. It also goes into different habitats and what can live in those habitats and stuff like that. So I thought this would be a nice thing for us to kind of add in for the winter time. So on those days when it is a lighter history day or a lighter school day where we're not doing so much of the literature stuff, my son will be working on handwriting or some other things and more independently, and we will work on this with my preschooler. The next thing is that we had purchased, I wanted to do a natural disasters kind of like emergency planning type thing with my kids during the winter months, like I said, when things are a little bit lighter. So for this unit study, it talks about different weather, what the weather is like today, but what are hurricanes? And I know we don't deal with that in Minnesota, but tornadoes. And I figured, like, when we talk about the tornadoes, where do we go in our house when there is a tornado? What does the siren mean? What are some things that you should look out for? What if we're driving and we see a tornado? Those type of things. I also wanted to talk about, like, if there was a house fire, where in our neighborhood should we meet? How do you crawl through the house? All of that stuff. So I am planning to do that here on those lighter days for school as well. And then hopefully, depending on when baby shows up, when we're done with this, we can tour our local police station and fire station, and then we can kind of do more some hands-on stuff for the things that we learned. So that is kind of the tentative plan. Now, I mentioned handwriting for my oldest. Handwriting is not something that we've ever really done with him. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, when he was preschool age, we did preschool stuff at home, like a Montessori style thing with him. But I was also in nursing school, and then when I graduated, I worked overnights. And so he would go to a Montessori type center where he would go the day after I had worked, or on the days where I did school. And they did all of the handwriting and that type of stuff with him. So I did everything else at home. And then when we started homeschooling, he whipped through his preschool stuff so quickly, like tracing his letters and all that, and I didn't feel the need to do a hands-on thing with him further than that. when we moved into kindergarten, we realized that my son has dyslexia, and he had such a hard time with reading, and it was a really rough time in our school, and to the point where my son couldn't do math and reading on the same day, and a lot of the other school fell by the wayside because reading was most important. He was adamant that he wanted to read, and he really wanted to learn how to read, and that desire was there, but his brain was making it harder for him to do so. So we just focused on the reading. I didn't want to add spelling or handwriting on top of that to make things more confusing for him. And we did try to do explode the code with our reading and stuff like that, and it was just overwhelming for him. It was too much. Now that we're doing our spelling and stuff, he likes to write everything in capital letters, so we've been trying to be more strategic, or a little more stingy on his handwriting, and making sure that he only does capital letters when appropriate, trying to work on spacing between different words that he's writing and all that nitty-gritty stuff. And I'm realizing that we maybe should have kept up on some of the handwriting, because for example, for his spelling with the dash lines, he doesn't understand what parts of the letters can go above or below the dash line and stuff like that. I just want his handwriting to be neater and stuff. And so I just have this notebook with blank lined paper that I got on Amazon when my son was in kindergarten, thinking that we would do more handwriting stuff. And we've been using this for his copy work that he was doing with history. And what I'm doing, or what I'm going to be doing, is just writing, for example, the capital A and lowercase a, and then making him copy it correctly multiple times as kind of his independent work. And we'll go through the alphabet that way. And he's okay with it. We've talked about it, and he understands that this is something that will help him moving forward. And so I think he's in a better headspace for us to be able to do this stuff, because he's reading at like a 3rd grade level at this point. So reading is not the issue anymore. Now we're playing catch up on some of these other areas that we kind of put on the back burner. So this is what I plan on him doing as part of his independent work, or his morning menu type stuff with him, while I'm doing the more individual stuff with my preschooler. Now I am going to be referencing my computer over here, because I have the description and everything of that spelling curriculum that we are doing. The spelling has been going great. We are doing, it is called the 1st grade Orton Gillingham Spelling Pamphlets Growing Bundle Dyslexia. And this is made, or it's on Teachers Pay Teachers, and it's made by Smart and Special Teaching. I will link it down below, but she has a lot of great resources. This is a spelling curriculum specifically made for kids with dyslexia, and it's pretty reasonable. She has a sale going on it right now, actually, for $23.75, but I spent $36 on it. So it's very reasonably priced for the whole 1st grade. I plan on us going into the 2nd grade, and once we've got those kind of foundation stuff laid, hopefully we can go to a different type of spelling approach for him. But for now, this is working really, really well. Right now, we are still working in the first couple of weeks of this curriculum, because it is a 5-day-a-week spelling. And we have been doing it 5 days a week prior to this break that we were taking. I don't think we're going to continue to do 5 days a week. The spelling does usually take like 5-10 minutes, so maybe we will. But I don't think it's entirely 100% necessary moving forward. So just an FYI on how this is kind of set up. I only have the first couple weeks printed, so I have all of my son's, the student stuff in this folder here, and then I have printed out for the teacher stuff. So for the first lesson, everything is divided into these 3 sections here, and you're going to start by saying the word, and they have to count the sounds that they hear in that word. So for example, if I say the word at, he should write the number 2 for at. Tip, sack, top. So I'm reading this when it's covered up, he can't see it. And then he has another blank one next to him that he has to write down the correct answer for. Then for the second section, we are going to be, it says, your teacher will say a sound, echo the sound, and if it's a vowel, write V, and if it's a consonant, write C. And then right here it says, a consonant is a sound made by the tongue, teeth, and lips, and sometimes the nasal cavity. So I will show him and I'll point to my chin and I'll go, ah, eh, you know, and I'll say the sounds and say, see how open my mouth is? That means it's a vowel. And this has been so good for him because he was, even though they talk about it and all about reading, it's not something that he's like, okay, vowel, sure, whatever, I don't really care. But it's making him slow down for these words and really catch it. And then it says, so it says the consonant is made from the tongue and stuff. And then when we would talk about the vowels, I would show him my mouth and say, see how open my mouth is compared to the consonants. That's what it is. So if I say, he needs to write the letter V on his paper to show that it's a vowel. Then the next day for this, we have different things here, and it would say the word in the picture, then write the beginning sound. Some of these can be a little confusing, so I do appreciate she writes what it's actually supposed to be on here. But so the first one is hat, so he would have to write the letter H down. Then for the next one, it would be say the word in the picture and then write the ending sound. So he would write the T for hat, for example. And then the next one is say the word in the picture, then write the vowel and the ending sound. This is called a word family. So for hat, he would have to write at. And so that's why this is important when she has the vowel piece on the other one. And I still have to get him to go really slow because he wants to just do this so quickly. So this is going really well. However, there are times where I have to, you know, pump the brakes. We got to slow down on this, where this is not a race. And so that is one thing that we have to work on. But like I said, it's going really well. And it was a struggle the first week or so that we did this for the spelling to get him to slow down and stuff. But now he's doing really well, and it's actually one of his favorite things to do. So these things build and build. So soon you're doing, I'm going to say the word ran, and he has to write down how many sounds. He needs to write down, for this one, it's your teacher will say a word, echo the word. If the word starts with the vowel, write V. If it starts with a consonant, write C. So things are like building up on top of each other. So I've got this pulled up here so I can kind of show you what this builds to. So I have week 30, and this one says, listen to your teacher say 3 words. 2 words will have the same beginning sound, and 1 will have a different beginning sound. Write the different beginning sound. So then I would say the 3 different words, and he would have to select the word that had the different beginning sound and then write that down. They do a lot of other things as well, like there's mark the vowels with a bevy and say the short vowel sounds as you mark it. So you would have trusted, mistrusted, spelled. So you have these words written out, and they are looking for different things to kind of help their brain decode these things. Listen to your teacher say 2 words and write both vowel sounds. They're talking about prefixes and suffixes in here. And all this stuff kind of builds up to get your child to really slow down when it comes to the spelling, to figure out the sounds and everything that goes with it. You're learning the word chunks and all that stuff, so that way when they are spelling, their brain already realizes those chunks and stuff like that so that you can spell it. And that was one thing that we were really struggling with our spelling. So like I said, this is kind of a niche thing. I know that there's not maybe not a lot of homeschoolers out there that do have a student with dyslexia. So if you are wanting something more in depth on this spelling curriculum, let me know. This is the only thing that we found that has really worked for us. So if you are interested in that, I can for sure go ahead and do that video for you. Just let me know. The other thing that we're doing, changing, maybe not so much as changing, but for math, we're doing math with confidence. We're on week 29 there for the first grade. We were planning on having that finished before the end of the year, but we had multiple deaths and illnesses in the last month and a half in our family, and so we weren't able to finish that. We're on week 29. There's 31 or 32 weeks in there, so we are just right at the tail end of that. So we'll be moving into second grade. I do plan on us also moving into math with confidence kindergarten level with my preschooler, because she is more than ready for it. I did a flip through of it just to kind of review and see if she would be ready for something like that, and she totally is. So we're going to be planning on working that into our school as well. So stick around for future videos on how that all works out, because this is a newer thing for me, doing bigger curriculum with more than one student. So it'll be an adjustment period for sure, but I do think that she's ready for it, and it's a good idea for us to kind of get into that stuff a little bit before baby comes, so that way we have our routine and everything that we were doing, and we can kind of slowly work back into that, and we're not adding more new things on top of all of that. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me know what kind of videos you like to see here on this channel. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you are changing, if anything, for your school for this upcoming new year. And if you like this type of videos, please hit that subscribe button. It is a free way for you to be notified of future videos, and I can't wait to catch you guys next time.